Welcome to a new episode of All That Jazz. I'm your host, Matyash, and I have with me John Bennardo. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And I was interested in having you on because you wrote a book about cancel culture, and you wrote about. I started to read it, and it's really good. It's about a guy that writes a typo, and it's a typo that I think in England would be okay in a way, because in England means it's
Well,
cigarette. I think.
can we discuss the word? Yeah, I mean, I know the word means something. I mean, we can
Yes,
give it away.
we can. We can.
He means to write the word flag, like we should all have our flags at half mast because it's a
Hmm.
sad day. And instead, he leaves out the L and writes, we should leave our fags at half mast. So you're saying in England it's a cigarette? Is that correct?
Yes, we will
So
go out for
nobody
a
would.
fag. No, really, no.
No,
This
I
is
believe. No, I
serious.
know. I've heard it.
This is
I
serious.
didn't remember it until you said it. I'm laughing because so the book just won't work over there. Unless people are aware of the fact that it's in
I
America and not.
Yeah, they are aware. I mean, I think American culture is so broad that people are aware. But I think in you not just in England, like you go to Scotland, it's the same thing. I think in Ireland might be the same thing as well. So at least in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, I did they speak the same language. So
Well, here in America, it doesn't go over very well. Let's leave it at that, right?
right, right. Like, just to make clear, we're not using it as a curse word. We're using it
No, no,
as a
it's a
cigarette.
well, no, he means to write the word flag. He
Yeah.
accidentally writes fag, and he doesn't mean what the way the tweet is read is that we should all have our fags at half mast because he's writing about something that happened in the Supreme Court about the LGBTQ, the gay community. And so when he writes that, it's like, well, we should hang our fags, our homosexuals at half, and if people take it that way. That's not the way he intended it because he had a typo. So it really creates quite a stir. And if somebody actually tweeted that here in real life, that would be the end of their career, typo or no typo. So it sets the stage for all the commentary and events that happen in the story moving forward.
Yeah, but it goes quite. It seems almost like it's set in the future because people are a lot more taken aback by it, and not just that he gets canceled. We're not giving much away because this is in the
That's what the
first five
story is. Yeah.
percent
Yeah.
of the book. I think that this sets it up the book basically. But he not only gets fired, but he and loses his career, but he gets arrested, which I found
Yes.
fascinating.
Well, you have to, if you haven't read the entire book,
Yeah.
there are things that come out about him, all false, all twisted narratives.
Oh,
And it gets to a point where the things brought up about him become so upsetting and so egregious that he has to be arrested. None of it actually happened. Now, the whole point of the story is that once you have it's my take on American society, is that once people have an opinion, once I think this guy is a bad guy for tweeting out something about homosexuals, now I don't like him. And now anything he says, my bias is going to go toward, oh, he's bad. He's bad. So after the tweet happens, before the tweet, nobody cares and there's no problem.
yeah.
After the tweet, now the narrative has been changed about him. And so now when someone mentions something that happened 10 years ago, now that's offensive because, oh, well, now that I know he's a bad guy, but it isn't because so
Yeah.
the arrest comes after several things that happened and several lies about him that are all part of this big narrative that are fake because people are just dying to just beat on the guy. I
Mm.
mean, that's really what happens here. Once you have a chance to pile on somebody, everybody piles on. We like to bring celebrities down and bring them down with a thud. So one simple tweet and his life unravels to the point where he gets arrested, which he didn't do what they're accusing him of. But when you add up the sum total of everything that happens in the book, you'll see when you get to that page, oh, now I see why he got arrested. It's
Right.
not just for
Okay.
being offensive, but at first I want the reader to think that and wonder why, and then keep reading and find out and laugh
Okay.
about it.
That's good because yeah, it does feel but it does feel like our culture. I'm saying the Western culture because American culture is pretty much
Yeah.
influencing the culture in Europe and in culture in Australia and so forth. Uh, it's influencing everything. So the mob mentality into being offended by something so so strongly is spreading, unfortunately. And I think the perspective is lost, and the sense of people having a sense of humor about things is just not. They take you literally, and you must be canceled. It's just
Yeah.
weird.
Right. If you're not politically correct, then you're canceled, right? You have to be, everything has to be um, on par with the norms. Like if I said something on this show as a joke, and it got taken the wrong way, I could get in trouble. I mean, that's really at that point in the world where you have to be careful of almost everything you say on any platform, because someone might find a reason to take offense to it. Somebody might take offense to what we were talking about earlier when I was describing the typo. I was just explaining the typo, and someone might say, "Well, he's against homosexuals because he wrote a book that had the typo in it." And well, no, that's that's I think the level of where some people are, is that they're going to go that way, and so you got to be careful. But at the same time, I can't censor every word out of my mouth to the point where I'm trying to appease everybody, because then I lose sight of who I am and what I do.
You know what I saw today, that if you call people that are overweight unhealthy, you're fat phobic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You
I
can't
mean,
talk about people that are overweight anymore. You can't use the word fat.
yeah, you can because it's like you're like, it's like you're a bigot if you're doing that.
It's upsetting. I mean, it's the reason I wrote the book. I mean, I hate the fact that the world wasn't like that when I was younger, and now it is. Now I have to be careful that I don't allude to somebody who's 350 pounds. I can't call that person fat. I mean, yeah, maybe I could find a better word. Weight challenged. I mean, how, I said, I sometimes feel like I'm fat, and I'm not like obese or anything like that. But if I feel a little heavy, so I'll say, "Oh, I'm getting fat." Well, it's not. It's just a loose interpretation of the word. Anyway,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah, yeah.
I
I
think the
mean,
point has been made. The point's been made there.
yeah, when you said earlier about somebody being canceled by something that happens years ago, this happens all the time. The classic example was a few years ago, Kevin Hart, who said
Yeah,
something that was seen or was homophobic, not perceived from a point of view from 2019, but he wrote it like 2010.
yeah.
So it's really crazy what they
And
do.
he lost the Academy Awards hosting gig because of it.
And they kept
So yeah,
they kept
people.
asking him too. They kept asking him, do you want to comment on this? Do you want to comment on this? And do you want to comment? And at some point he was like, no, I said my piece. I don't want to talk about it.
Well, comedians are probably as big of risk as anybody else, because comedians' job is to, poke fun of and use exaggeration for humor's sake, and all the different tools that comedians have. But a lot of it, if you took it literally, would be offensive. I mean, here in the States, all the late night talk show hosts would criticize President Trump and now Biden. That's part of the late night talk show shtick, is to criticize what's going on in government.
Yeah.
If the government got all upset about it, they'd be complaining all the time about the ridicule they're getting from the late night talk show hosts. It's ridiculous. It's just comedy. It's just entertainment.
Yeah.
You can't take it. But I think, actually, without getting into politics, Donald Trump took it personally. He didn't like anybody making a joke at his
He did.
expense, and you saw the result of that with him going on and lambasting the Academy Awards for talking about him. I mean, just lighten up. You're the president of the United States. It's part of the gig. You get made fun of because that's what you're in the highest position in the land. And that's what late night TV is. But
Yeah, for better or worse, Trump always fought back. Sometimes when he didn't have to, but that's part of his personality. So you don't get political and don't have opinions about either Trump or Biden.
well, I mean, again, I don't want to. I'm on here for other reasons. I don't want to get too political, but I was not really a Trump fan, and that's not a reflection of my left or right leanings. It's just a human being leanings. I mean, if he was he's a Republican, had he been a Democrat, I would have had the same feeling about him. I don't think it has anything to do with what party you're with. I particularly don't find him to be an engaging person. I find him to be a bit of a con artist. I read about him. I learned about his background. I've seen his history. I mean, we all know, we've all seen it, and that's what I don't get about so many people who support him. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, and I respect it, and I try not to get into arguments. But if you can't see what this man's all about by looking at his past and looking at everything he's done prior to his presidency, that's I don't know what to tell you. But I personally don't care for him and don't think he was qualified for the position that he was elected to. And I think it's wrong that he says our election was stolen because there's still no evidence, but yet people believe it because it came out of his mouth.
I think I'm on the opposite point of view as you are, but I will have to say that I'm not allowed to talk about what you just mentioned because one of my podcasts was removed.
Oh, really? So wait, you want to edit this out then? Because I don't
No, no,
really
no,
need to be
no, no.
sharing
You
my
didn't
opinion
say
on a
no.
politician.
You said that the affirmative of what they want to hear, but I didn't
Oh,
say.
you said the opposite. All right. Well, listen,
Yeah, yeah,
again, I respect people's opinions, but I ask people when I have talked to them just to put aside your leanings and just look at things objectively and look at both sides, because I think, and it happens on both sides of the fence,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
pro Biden or pro Obama and pro Trump. People just, they have, look, this is my guy, and that's therefore I will support whatever. When and it's hypocritical too. If Biden were to do the same thing as Trump were to do, the Trump supporters would criticize Biden, and you could come back and say, well, Trump did the same thing. Now, there's no actual example of that, but my point is just that they're not looking at the action; they're just looking at who did it, and they're determining whether it's right or wrong because it's their hero or it's not their
Yeah.
hero. And
It's
that's
yeah.
incorrect. And they're voting on emotion and they're not voting on facts. And that's maybe another book for me to write. It's just, we have a culture that's easily offended. That was my book. And now maybe it's time
You
for one
know,
where people, just support somebody because they support them and don't bother looking at anything relevant to make an educated decision.
I agree with you. There's a lot of emotion versus facts, but also with I think with elections, it's about choosing like if you like this set of principles and what's important to you. It's such a complex issue that yeah,
Well, and you know
it's
what I think we're lacking too. I don't know about your country, just critical thinking skills.
mm,
I think no one has no one. I shouldn't say no one. A small number of people or have the ability to think logically given a set of circumstances. Other people just believe what they read and go with an opinion without any basis for it other than emotion. I think, and this is supposed to be taught in schools, and the ability to critically think and, weigh options and look at decisions and understand the reasoning behind them. Nobody does that anymore. And so you end up with, elections that are won and lost, not on the issues, on your perception of the issues. Or I like what he said about abortion, I'll vote for him. Well, meanwhile, there's a whole bunch of other things you didn't look at, and you didn't really totally understand his position on abortion, for example.
yeah.
Again, I'm just spewing random examples here. I'm not talking about abortion particularly specifically, but and I'm probably guilty of that to a degree too. I don't study all the issues to the point where I can look at a candidate and say, "Oh, I get where they're coming from." But I judge the person a little bit more than the issues. I look for integrity, which again I don't think Trump has any, but I don't, that's part of it. But I look for characteristics of a human being and leadership and whatnot. And I don't know that we found a person, Democrat or Republican. I don't know if we've had anybody like that for a long time. So it's not like it's one or the other for me. But I wasn't old enough when John F. Kennedy was the president, but from what I gather from learning about him, he was a man of integrity. This might upset some people because maybe he wasn't. I don't know, but he
JFK.
just seemed like John F. Kennedy. Yeah, I mean, I think he might have had some things he was doing under the table. I don't know all
What
those
about the
facts, but
mistress and all that?
oh yeah, that's there you go. But I think as far as just a man of as a president who could handle certain issues and handle them rationally, from what I didn't study him, but he seems to be somebody who was there for the right reasons as a president. What he was doing outside of that, I mean, okay, we can certainly question that, but um,
Yeah.
that's why I understand he was one of our greater presidents, and the reason he was killed is because of what he was trying to stop wars. He was looking for peace, and the
Mm,
people who make money and get rich off of war didn't like that, and they had to get rid of the guy blocking it. And that's from what
okay.
I might be open up a can of worms
Oh,
for us
you are
here.
definitely opening
I
up
know
a
I
can
am,
of.
but
Let's
that's
backtrack a
where
little bit.
that's where I'm. I mean, that's where I'm from. But again,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right. So you're gonna get a bunch of nasty letters, and people are gonna send me nasty
Listen,
letters. But
listen.
you know,
There's not enough people watching this yet for me to get nasty letters. But
all right. Well, they'll go back when you're famous, and they'll watch and say,
they
"Who's this
might go
guy?"
back and but if I support Trump, a lot of people will not like I do. I not a lot of people will not watch me anyway, so I'm not too concerned. I think JFK was pretty good president. There was I read his book, Profiles in Courage, was really excellent book. But then you always hear stories like about the book. There was some allegations that somebody ghostwrote for him and all that. I don't know, but
It's
the book
possible.
itself, I love the book. The book was really about politicians who put their careers on the line because of something uh, they really believed in. Um, and
I like. I mean, that's
in my opinion, if it's worth anything, I believe Trump was in that category where he he not only because all the money he could have made in those 4 years plus he destroyed, in effect, he destroyed his name for something that he believed was greater. But that's neither here nor there. That's what
right.
I.
And the only way, and I will move on, but I'll answer that by
Yeah,
saying
let's move on.
people think it's so heroic that he didn't take his salary. You know how much money he made by putting Secret Service men up at his hotels? I mean, he had side stuff going on there, and his sons had. He was still running his business, and he's not supposed to be doing that. Believe me, he came out fine without his presidential salary.
Yeah,
But
he was a
anyway,
billionaire. Yes. All right. Let's go
so
back
back to
to.
the book, because I'd rather talk about stuff that's
Yeah, yeah,
funny.
yeah. Let's.
I live in a world where I like make fun of things, and so everything
Right,
we're
right.
talking about here is ripe for humor and satire.
I heard that comedians when they go to college campuses, they have. It's okay. The camera will go back. It happens. I need to
It's all right.
upgrade my technical stuff. So when the comedians nowadays go on college campuses, it's very hard for them to say their jokes because the students get very offended. They're like, "Oh,
Hmm.
how dare you? This is sexist. This is this. This is
Right.
this." So there's a lot of that happening. So I think the younger people are, the more, for lack of a better term, the more woke they are, and the more they tend to be offended. Like the trigger of getting offended is getting almost like lowered and lowered and lowered every year.
Yeah, I agree. And the age is a big part of it. People have a sense of entitlement now, the younger generation. Um, like we owe them something, and we live on their terms. And if we upset them, then we're really, disturbing the balance of the force, so to speak, in Star Wars terms.
Yes.
But yeah, they take their feelings, and they take their emotions and their beliefs seriously. And if you question them, they take it personally. Instead of having that conversation, like I mentioned earlier, the critical thinking skills, the ability
Mm.
to hear another side of an argument and process it and say, I didn't consider it that way, or I did consider it, and here's why I still believe I might be right. Instead, it says, no, you're wrong because you didn't say what I agree with. And I see that in youth as well. And it's a problem.
You ever see that movie by Mike Judge, Idiocracy, in
No,
2006?
I keep hearing about it, and I heard that
Ah,
it's now more relevant than ever. I think I have to stop and watch it. You know what I'm watching now, 10 years late, is Breaking Bad. Finally, we're watching that show,
oh,
which
okay,
is
okay. I
never
didn't watch
watched
it.
it.
I didn't watch
It's
it. I didn't
terrific. Yeah,
watch
it's
it.
terrific.
Still, okay.
But yeah, that's what we've been watching as a family here lately. And then the sequel, which actually happens before it, but it's made after. It's called Better Call Saul.
Oh,
I don't know if you
this is
ever
a
heard
new
of it.
series. This is a new
Well, no,
series.
it's actually been on for 5 years, and they have a sixth season coming up. And Saul is a lawyer in Breaking Bad, and this show is about how he got to be the sleazy lawyer that he is in Breaking Bad. And I started watching the Better Call Saul show, and then a friend of mine said, "No, no, 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 you have to watch Breaking Bad first, because everything that happens in Better Call Saul, if you know what happens in Breaking Bad, you'll understand." Anyway. So we stopped watching Better Call Saul, started watching Breaking Bad. We're almost done with it, and then we'll go back and watch the other show. So we've been doing a little binging here in my household lately. It's good television, though. It's good, excellent writing, and I enjoy it.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out. I've been watching something old school as well, King of the Hill. Um,
Cartoon.
yes,
Okay,
Hey,
well, more terrific.
have you
My
seen
son
it?
was on a Simpsons. I've
Okay.
seen episodes, but it's not something I watch regularly. My son got on a Simpsons binge for a while. He hasn't really been watching them lately, but there was a lot of Simpsons on in our house in the last couple of months until recently. My son's a big TV and movie guy, and I kind of am too, so he falls in line there. He's not much of a writer yet. Maybe he'll follow in my footsteps and write
Right,
something
right.
funny.
Okay,
He's
let's
got
talk
this
about
similar sense
writing.
of humor. Yeah.
So you started writing. When's that? Did you start writing humor stuff, or did you start just write for the sake of like, or for the love of writing?
Well, I think the long answer is I was a writer as a kid. I would just write short stories and poems a lot, and I was influenced a lot by Disney, some of the old Disney movies. There were a lot of
Hmm.
slapstick comedy in those with Tim Conway, things like that. Like the Shaggy DA, if that rings a bell with anybody
Oh, I
listening.
haven't watched it.
Guy that
I
turns
need to
into a
check it out.
dog when they remade it and it was no good. But the ones like from the 70s when I was a kid, like I was influenced by that. And so that's where my writing came from. And then I went to film school and I did, documentaries
Oh,
and
wow.
things like that. I think I might have told you about the $2 bill,
Yes,
which we can
yes,
talk about.
yes.
But recently I just said, you know what, I've gotten away from what I did as a child and I wrote more and I haven't been writing much. So I said, let me get back into it. And I started writing a little bit for the love of writing and creating and telling a story a certain way. And I have to kind of be funny. It's my outlet, to be funny. So um, the way I entertain people in my writing is to make them laugh because
Hmm.
I don't know that I could hold somebody's interest. I mean, I'm sure I could, but I don't want to put it to the test. I don't know if I can write a 400-page just story and get through it. I need to make people laugh at some point. It's just I would rather sit and read a book that makes me laugh than not. So that's what I do.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was it was an enjoyable process, and then I remembered and realized without being modest how good I am at it. My first draft was pretty much garbage or not very good writing, but through the process of rewriting and going through it, I got it to the point where it was, and now I look at it, it's very well written, and a lot of feedback is that it's very well written.
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, okay, well, it took 5 drafts or whatever, but you know, I know what's good and I know what's not good, and I kept working on it till it was good, and I pat myself on my back because I know that that's where my talent is. I mean, that book confirmed to me that this is what I do well, and I should keep doing it.
Well, let's talk about that because you mentioned doing it well, but also it's lacking yourself because there's this what do you call when you make two circles and see where they intersect? So
Venn diagram.
Venn diagram. Thank you. Sometimes it's difficult. I'm not being a native English speaker. Sometimes these simple things, I'm like,
But
what do
you
you
knew
call
it though. But
this?
you knew
And
the
I,
what
I
you
knew
wanted to
what it
talk about.
was. I knew what it
Yeah.
was, but I just didn't know like how you call it. So this diagram is basically showing what you're supposed to be doing. And it seems like you went to film school, which is something I'm going to ask you about because it's something I'm fascinated with. But it seems like the early love was writing, so you went back to it. Are you still, by the way, doing anything with film?
Well, I have my business is video production, so I
Oh,
wouldn't call it
okay.
film, but I work for corporate clients and I go out and I film things. I filmed just a testimonial for a business company earlier last week. And you bring the camera and the lights and the mic and you set it up and you make sure it looks right. And then there's editing. I do editing, so I'm always working with filmed content. It's not necessarily um, movies or anything like that, but I do work with behind me in one of these closets, my camera gear and everything, and so that's my business. So I do that, but it's not always creative. It's
Yeah.
more straightforward. So I do some creative stuff. I mean, based on the film that I made, I make other videos for a YouTube channel as I see fit. And I have a small YouTube channel with not a lot of videos or followers, just has my name on it. And if I think of something goofy, I'll put it up there. I put some old videos from college up there just as a place to host them. And it's a channel that I should pay more attention to when I get free time to create stuff. But I just like to create. I like to write, but I also like to see what I've written turned into visual,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is where the movie love comes in. And the book that I wrote, I actually thought about writing it as a movie, but ultimately I didn't really feel like writing a script at that point and really you really have to fine tune a script and keep it with 90 to 100 pages. And I just wanted to be free to just write, like go off on a tangent and just free write, tell a funny story, for the character. And that's what I was able to do in the book that I would not have been able to do in the screenplay. And so it was more enjoyable to write a book in this instance. And I might, go write another one now.
Right, right. And I think you could be turned into a movie because it's like
Yeah.
there's an obvious action and it doesn't require too much. I think this seems to be no action sequences of any kind, so it's more like a drama in a way, but comedy slash drama, I would say.
It's been reviewed by some people who work in film. I mean, I've got it on a website where they kind of curate content for producers to come find.
Hmm.
And the feedback that I got on is that it's very much doable as a movie. It'd be low budget. It's easy to film. Great. They really thought the main character was fantastic. And they actually wrote in the, I was amazed. It said potential for awards for anybody who played this part. Like it's that crazy a character that if you found the right actor and he played this character in a movie, that it might be the kind of role that wins awards. And I was like, wow, that's a great compliment.
Mm.
But it's just a matter of finding somebody who's interested in turning it into a movie. And then I can still write it as a script. That's the beauty, because I wrote it as a book, but now that I have the whole story down, I can convert it into a screenplay. I know how to write screenplays. So that's an avenue that I could take, but I'm still working on like the next project instead of going back and
Right, right,
doubling up on the other one. So it's just a matter, and I need like 35, 40 hours in a day and nobody to bother me so I can do this kind of work.
right. Yeah, have you done? You wrote scripts before, probably
Oh yeah,
during the
that was
film
yeah.
school.
That's where I got my master's degree, right? I almost sold one when I was younger. I got taken by a major agency in Los Angeles, and they
Hmm.
shopped it out to all the studios. And had they been interested, I'm not going to say the script wasn't good enough. It just wasn't what people were looking for. Or timing was wrong. Who knows? But it just never got the buzz that we were hoping. And had it gotten a buzz, there would have been a potential bidding war between studios. That's what some scripts, like multiple studios want this to make as a movie, and they offer a price, and someone else says, "Well, we'll offer you more." And the next thing you know, you're selling your screenplay for $250,000 at age 25 or whatever I was, and that would have been, unbelievable, and might not have been good for me. Who knows, to make that much
Yeah, I was
money
gonna
that soon?
say. So
I
it
mean, it
destroys some
happens for
people.
yeah. Well, but it would have got me into the business, and then then maybe I would get hired to write more scripts, and then I would be free to do that, knowing that when I write something, it's going right to a studio head,
Yeah.
as opposed to now, where if I write something, I'm still at bottom of the barrel trying to find my way into someone's hands who can do something with it. But no regrets. I mean, I wrote. Look, I got as far as you can go with a script without selling it, and a lot of people never get that far. So it was a very valuable experience for me, even though it didn't ultimately sell and become a movie. And then I will add my addendum to that story is that 3 years later, a movie with the exact same concept came out.
What?
So I'm
Which
not going to
movie?
say anybody.
Okay.
Well, okay, so I'm going to tell you the concept. The movie was, nobody really saw it. It was a bomb. Doesn't mean mine would have been, because mine was a little bit different. Mine was a little more adult. This one was juvenile, but it was a movie about a guy that opens a business getting revenge on people. It's like a revenge for hire. So if
Oh.
your girlfriend dumps you and you want to get back at her, you hire this guy who's kind of a washout. He's good at messing with people. He'll go and get revenge for you. It's very funny. And then he gets tied up with a politician and things get nasty. And then they came out with a movie called Dirty Work, with Norm Macdonald, which did very poorly and was really horrible movie. I mean, I never wanted to see a movie as badly as that one, because I knew it was the same thing.
Right.
And I don't think they stole it from me, but what I do think is possible that as my script circulated around town, maybe someone hears what the pitch is, and they don't realize it. And then
Possible.
a month, 2 months later, they think this about an idea, and they don't realize that it was an idea that of a script that went around a while, and someone pitches it. Who knows? I mean, it might have been just a germ of an idea that someone heard about and
Right.
ran with later on without realizing that someone else already had a script like that.
I think
But
it's
that it was
possible the muse goes to many people. So the
yeah,
writing muse. So it might visit you, but it might visit another guy that's writing in Washington State, and you are in New York or wherever you were at that time, or New Jersey. So you're there writing, and somebody's in Washington State is writing almost the same thing.
yep.
So it's quite fascinating the way the muse works. I think it might work in that way, that it might visit because this happened with inventions sometimes, that two people in different parts of the world would invent almost the identical thing. It's the craziest thing, and obviously no contact between each other.
Well, here's the kicker: is that I worked for at the time I was working for America's Funniest Home Videos. You remember that show?
Hmm. Oh, you're working for
Bob
that
Sag.
show? That's amazing.
I worked for that show, yeah. And Bob Saget was the host.
Mm,
And when they decided to make the movie Dirty Work, they tabbed who else to direct it but Bob Saget. Now I followed the story. Bob Saget had nothing to do with the film until they hired him as a director after
right.
but when my dad heard that Bob Saget, who I worked for, I mean, technically worked for, his show, when he heard that Bob Saget was directing the movie that was basically a rip off of my idea, he thought for sure it was stolen because he figured Bob Saget heard about it in the office or something. I said, no, 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 it didn't work like that. Bob Saget didn't come on for a while, but it was just funny how that worked out. I don't think Bob Saget's directed any other movies since, but he directed the one that was the exact same concept as mine, which I wrote while I was working for his show. So it's,
That's
you
crazy.
know,
Is Bob Saget the guy that was in that sitcom from the 90s?
Full House.
Full
Yeah,
House,
Full
right?
House. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, oh wow.
You should know who he is over there. He's very
He-
raunchy, dirty comic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's not as big time now as he was in, I think, in the 90s. That was,
Yeah,
or no, in the 80s he was in some movies in the 80s that were done really well.
yeah. He's known for the show, and he's forever rich because of the show. And then he was very popular when America's Funniest Home Videos got popular because he was the host. I mean, it was a number
Mm.
one show on TV for a couple of years. At least family variety show number one. So a lot of people knew him, and then he ended up directing a film, and sure enough, it was it's based on my idea.
Hmm.
But
That's,
yeah,
yeah, that's unfortunate that you select the first movie based on a script
he
that's
didn't
not
he didn't
solid.
know. Yeah, well, he wanted a chance to direct. It was comedy. He probably was friends with Norm Macdonald. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that go behind that.
Well, right, right, right.
Um, but it would have been nice if something would have happened with my script. It was very funny, like my
Okay.
book. It was very funny. I thought it was well written, and certainly would have been a better movie than Dirty Work. I could say that without being modest, and that's just
Hmm.
fact. Dirty Work was just awful.
Who knows?
Just
Maybe someday in the future somebody will watch this and be like, "Yeah, I wanna know what John Bernardo wrote." So I'm gonna call him up and see.
Well, the funny thing is that movie did so badly that you almost could come up with it and not remake it, but make another movie with the same idea today. And I don't think anybody would go, "Oh, we saw that
Right.
with
The
Dirty
bar
Work,"
was
because
so
nobody's.
low that you can
It's
make.
almost like a new, yeah. I mean, it's like a new idea. In fact, while I'm speaking here, I'm thinking maybe I should pull that script out and dust it off and send it back out as a new, as a new script.
Do that. Do that.
Update
I
it for
mean,
the. Well, I got to update it because it's got telephones and stuff. Now
okay.
we're all on
Oh,
cells and internet. There might be some jokes that I might have to change. But yeah, I mean, it's probably a fresh idea. You know what? Actually, it could be. I better not say this. It could be a TV series.
you see, it's self-censoring now. You say there's some jokes I
No, but
have
I
to
don't want anybody to
change.
take the idea and go. It's people are looking for TV shows like series, like to binge. That's not a bad idea for a show. A guy that goes into a revenge for hire business. There's plenty of storylines that you could have, and I'm thinking aloud here, but plenty of storylines. I'm gonna be thinking about that after we end this call.
Yeah,
That's not a bad
well,
idea for a
it's
weekly show.
and the alternative option is animation, because you can do a lot with animation nowadays as
Yeah.
well. So um who going back to the book we're talking about the typo, who do you think, the type of character that you have, since we're talking about movies, who do you think would be good for the lead role?
I don't know. That's a great question. When I wrote my script for the guy with the revenge, I had Bill Murray in mind.
Oh
Bill Murray
man,
would have been perfect for it. Would
he's
have been
still
perfect for it.
alive.
Yeah. But for the book, I don't know. That's a great. I don't know because I'm trying to also get an audio book done, and the book is written in the first person from the perspective of the game show host, the
Yep.
protagonist, and so I can't read it. And I'm like, if I'm gonna do an audiobook, I got to find somebody to be the voice of this guy, and that would be a challenge because I don't know who the right. I'd have to listen to a bunch of auditions to really get a feel. Even though I know the character, I'm not sure which voice. Yeah, so I can't answer your question. I really don't know. If it became a movie, I'd be fascinated to see who they'd cast because if cast correctly, it would be fantastic and might win awards, like I mentioned that review said. But if it wasn't cast right, it would sink the ship. I mean, it really would. It just the movie wouldn't work, because if you don't like this guy, if he doesn't come off as the kind of complex, nutty character he is, it's just not going to be a funny movie. So um, I
Does he
wish I knew the answer to that question, but I
does he
don't.
have more comedic sensibilities, or is he more of a serious guy?
He's an ego. He's not that bright. He has an ego about him. He just wants to be a celebrity. He's misunderstood about a lot of things. Facts kind of elude him. And if you read on, there's some of the things he says he just didn't quite grasp. Like my
Hmm.
favorite
Well,
line actually in the script is when he's having his arraignment to get arrested, and his attorney explains to the judge. He literally says, you can't really blame him for his faults. He's a man who's lacking social intelligence and full of naivete. And then the guy says to him later, the character says, "Hey, I love that you used the word naivete. I just hope the judge understands pig Latin." That's a joke you got to think about for a minute, but that's his level of intelligence. Like naivete, he doesn't know what naivete means. He thinks that it's pig Latin because that's how you speak in pig Latin. So it just shows his ignorance, I guess, is a good
Hmm.
word to use. He's ignorant. He means well, but he's ignorant. He's not that overly bright. He's great at being on camera and hosting a show. He's really not very worldly, outside of his own comfort zone.
I think if somebody like Ben Stiller played it, maybe it would be more of a
Yeah,
comedy.
maybe,
I
maybe.
think I think he can pull a lot of those off because with his face and his, like he's done a lot of dumb character, not a lot, but a few dumb characters. And um that what was that movie, Tropic Thunder? Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
that
Ben
movie wouldn't
Stiller,
that
yeah,
movie
could do
wouldn't
it.
fly nowadays because
Black thing, the Robert Downey playing the
yeah,
Black.
Robert Downey
Yeah,
was
exactly. Well, it goes back to what we were saying at the top of the interview, where people are overly offended, and comedians are, you can't say what they want to say. You look at movies like Mel Brooks movies. Mel Brooks is always making fun of like Jewish people, even though he's Jewish, and race. I mean, his whole movie Blazing Saddles with the black sheriff. Those
Mm.
movies today, no way would they
But
make it.
you know what, the great Frank Capra said in his one time when he got awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award by some organization. I don't think it was the Academy Awards. And he said, "Don't start, don't follow trends, start them."
Yeah,
So I'm thinking if a movie comes out that's totally not politically correct and just like jokes flying right and left, towards everybody, like a modern day Don Wrinkles kind of vibe to a movie. I think that would be so like not to be mean spirited, but to be like really funny.
I agree. I would watch that movie. I'd sign up for it in a minute, because I'll watch Blazing Saddles where there's a lot of racist jokes. I don't come off thinking that Mel Brooks is racist, or I don't feel like I'm a racist for thinking that movie's funny. He's taking what Mel Brooks is doing is he's taking our own insecurities about race and
Yep.
and making us laugh, putting them in front of us so that we can laugh about them. I don't, and so that he's not racist or anti-Semitic or anything like that. He's just showing us who we are as a culture, and making us look at things in a way, and that's why we laugh. That's how humor is created.
Yeah.
So I love that stuff. I mean, listen, if I could get away with it, I had to be very careful in my book that I did not insult anybody, um, because I don't want to insult anybody. But I'm aware of the way our world is, and the irony of writing a book about a culture that's overly sensitive is I have to be careful what I write, because our culture is overly sensitive. So when I make this main character offend people, he doesn't do it on purpose. It's all twisted narratives. Like I said, he didn't do anything wrong. But I also have to be careful that I don't play off of stereotypes in making him uh, appear to be anti something. And there are a couple of examples of that where I had to be careful, like around blacks and things like that, where the reason why people think he's offensive is because he used some sort of stereotype, or actually, or did, like, I mean, I give one example. Again, this is a total stereotype that blacks, this was a joke I heard when we were kids, that blacks like watermelon. Okay. And no, I don't know where that comes
Hey,
from,
I love watermelon.
but yeah, well, so do I. But I mean, it was always a thing that, and I don't even know where this comes from. I just remember as a kid growing up, there'd be jokes, and or for whatever reason, African Americans like watermelon more than I don't know, and it became like a stereotype that blacks ate watermelon. Okay, so whatever. So in the book, two people from the NAACP come to visit him about his game show because they don't have enough contestants, people of color on the show, which he fixes, but that gets twisted as well. But he offers them some candy he's got some candy on his desk, and he just grabs a couple and gives it to him. It just so happens like that they both are watermelon flavored Jolly Ranchers. Okay. And the two black gentlemen who there are offended, like as if he offered them two watermelon candies because they were black. Well, he didn't. He just reached into a bowl and gave them two candies, which happened to be watermelon. But later on, when the what hits the fan and he's getting lambasted for all his actions, that comes up as, and he gave these two guys watermelon candy. What was he trying to say about that? And
But
he
the,
didn't try to say anything about that. And that's my point is that that. And but my point is, as a writer, I had to use that stereotype to make it look like he offended them, because in those two people's eyes, the fact that he offered them watermelon candy, they took it as, oh, what are you trying to say, that we, because we are black, we prefer watermelon? And it's on them, it's on those two guys for perceiving it that way, right? The main character didn't do anything, but I, as a writer, have to communicate that to tell the story and to make my point. And I worry as a writer, someone's going to say, well, why are you using watermelon as the thing that triggers the black people in the first place? Well,
well,
I'm
it
going
could,
off of I'm going off of stereotypes. You know what I'm saying? I
right,
mean,
right,
I'm
right.
not saying that black people like that. I'm saying that these people think that. So it's a fine line. Is my point. So I had to be
Right,
careful.
right. But the cynical interpretation of what you're writing could always be you meant bad. You meant bad because they're like I'm back in university now at my age, and there's a book we had to not there was an additional writing called um, "Why Stop Talking to White People About Race," and it's basically a very kind of cynical book in my view. And basically, in one passage, she says white people are racist even if they don't think they are. Well, with that kind of attitude, it's like whatever. It's like very
And
sad.
yeah, my point is there are stereotypes. I mean, whether
Yeah.
we like it or not. I mean, you say something about a white person, I'm Italian, so there's all sorts of stereotypes about Italian. Wearing the chains and the hair on the chest and the way they dress with the shoes. I mean, I can make fun of Italians the same way I can make fun of anybody who's black or what have you, if I wanted to use just stereotypes. Doesn't mean I necessarily believe them. I'm just playing off what cultures have told us is
Wait, are you
the
wearing
case.
chains? Are you wearing
I
chains?
have a chain on, yes.
Okay.
I have a chain on, but not an Italian horn. I actually have my wedding ring on here because I had some surgery and they took it off me to go into surgery. And I've always been squeamish with things on my fingers. I've never been comfortable wearing a wedding, so I just said, oh, I'll put it around my neck.
Oh,
And this
that's a
other
good
one
idea.
is
That's a good idea.
my grandfather gave me this when I was sick in high school. I'm a cancer survivor. That's another topic we can get into. But my
Mm.
grandfather took this chain off his neck when he was well, when I was sick, he took it off and put it on me, and so it's a sacred thing for me. It's got nothing to do with being Italian or anything. It's
Mm.
a gift from my grandfather who suffered through his own surgeries when he was younger, and blah blah blah. But that's where I jingle. You can hear it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
jingling, and so it's like having dog tags on. Sometimes I have to be careful because I can't sneak up on anybody.
Right. But well, that's not a bad thing.
I know. Well, yeah, I'm being funny, but sometimes, like if I'm recording or I'm videotaping for my business, and I'm moving around, you kind of hear it, and then you listen to it later in editing or something. Go, what is that noise? I'm like, oh,
Mm.
those are my chains that are jingling. So if anybody out there is hearing any jingling, that's what that is. I usually flip it around the back of me, but
Right.
the point was, I'm not wearing like an Italian horn or anything like that. I mean, I'm not wearing anything that's unique to my
Yeah, yeah.
nationality.
I just want
But
to close it in on the racism thing because I think it's really overblown. For example, uh, based on the cynical theories that the book I read, you could say you, you could make a case like okay, give me can I give you a question that has that could be controversial?
What is my? You mean my answer will be controversial?
No. It's just that what I mean, I was
You
trying to infer
you can
might be
ask it. I'll
okay.
think
And
about my
I
answer, but you can ask it.
I'll give you the rationale why I'm asking it.
Okay,
Okay,
go ahead.
after. So you work in a store. There's two people walk into the store, a white person and a black person, and they walk about at about the exact time. So who do you go to first? Which customer do you go to first?
If I'm working as like a teller or something, I'm
Yeah.
working in the store. I don't know. I mean, I know what you're trying to do here with the. Well, give me your rationale for asking the question. Go ahead.
Well, the rationale is you lose no matter what you choose. So if you
Yeah.
choose the white person, the inference could be you're racist. But if you choose the black person, the same could be you're racist because you didn't think you could the black person could be left alone. So that's the thing. That's the cynical interpretation of whatever you do, whatever you do. So I'm trying to say, don't be too concerned about the mob. Just do your thing.
Right. Well, and that's and there.
Yeah.
I think reverse discrimination comes into play there too, because to follow up on the story in my book about the black people, um, they come to see the host of the game show because he doesn't have a lot of black people on the show, and the
Hmm.
producer explains we just don't have a lot of people auditioning. They fixed the problem. I mean, and without going into detail, I mean, they did the right thing. But then when the tweet comes out and everything gets overblown, these the NAACP finds a reason to criticize now that there is more black people on the show, they find a way to say, well, but and then this is racist because even though you have this many black people in the show now, they're this and they're this type, or I mean
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, I don't want to get, it's more than that, but so it's like you're like damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's exactly what you said.
Right.
And
Right.
I don't think my decision to go to either one of those people in the store would depend on their color. It would depend on maybe proximity to me. Like if I'm closer to the person who's at the front of this aisle and the other person's at the end of that aisle, I just go to this person over here,
Mm.
not because he's black or white, because it's the easiest access. Or the one that looks like they need the most help, the one with the most confused look on their face is the person
Right.
I'd
Right.
probably go to, regardless of color. But you're absolutely right. It's a dangerous question to ask, and I'm glad I didn't answer it because
Yeah, but
there's
I
no
mean,
winning.
whatever you answer would be okay. But the cynical theories that they teach in a lot of academia are
Right.
are almost like psychoanalyzing everything with a cynical bent. So anything you
Yes.
do could be inferred racism. So that's why I'm saying, I mean, let's not go and bowing down to the mob, all that, because it doesn't benefit us. And just let's laugh at things. Because I think your book is a good like. Gateway into that, like not taking us ourselves too seriously and just enjoying life. And this it obviously makes high stakes in that he lands in prison or whatever. But I think that's what's needed because society seems to be going into that direction unless we change it.
Yep. And that cynicism that you talk about is exactly what happens in the book because the cynicism comes from a pre-existing opinion in most cases. So once this guy sends out that tweet, now there's cynicism against him because now he's a bad guy, even though he didn't mean to send the tweet out. But now that he's a bad guy, now I will look at his actions in the same way you're going to look at my answer to whether I go to the black person or the white person. Now you're going to take that cynicism and look at everything this guy does and say, well, that's the wrong choice. He's racist, or that's the wrong choice. He's anti-Semitic, or that's the wrong choice. He hates women, or whatever the case is. It's that thought process, which is what's pervading. It's pervasive in our society, in my opinion, that makes people look at your actions and assign a value to it, like you're racist
Yeah.
because you picked the white guy or the black guy, and you can't win. So that's exactly what the book is about. This guy can't win because as soon as the bias turns against him and the cynicism is turned up, then everything he's ever done in his past is now looked at differently and taken as an offense. It's a perfect example.
Right. Talking about cynicism, you could write a book about how you think Jesus, all that everything he did was to gain fame and to be very selfish and all that. and the
Okay, I mean,
reason, and the
yeah,
reason he
you already
didn't.
got me talking about Trump. So yeah, I don't
and
want to go to. Let's not go religion now. I don't want to go
oh
go
man,
there. I've already
well,
gone
okay,
too deep into politics.
okay. Okay. Let's touch upon the documentary that you did about the $2 bill.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how often they're used over there where you are, but here in the States, they're looked at as a rarity. It's
Hmm.
regular currency. They're not rare. but people believe them to be. And I'm not going to get into all the reasons. You can watch the movie, but just because they appear to be a novelty and came out, we were celebrating our bicentennial, and they had a very interesting design on the back. People thought they were collectibles and didn't think they were real money. And excuse me, when people come across one, they think it has value, so they store it or they save it,
Hmm.
or they use it as tooth fairy money, or they give it to their grandchildren. So you don't see them very often in circulation, and because you don't see them in circulation, you think they're rare. And then because you think they're rare, when you see one, you don't spend it, and then that cycle continues. But the movie covers a whole bunch of topics. There's superstitions related to it. There's great stories of connection, people that found each other over the years because of a $2 bill that they had, or and the movie's really about connection, how people connect because of this unique piece of currency that is used differently than other ones. And it's a great film. It's on YouTube. It's for free on YouTube now. It's called The $2 Bill Documentary, TWO. It's also on Amazon if you want to pay $2. I had to cut some things out of the Amazon version to make it suitable for YouTube. So if you want the full experience, you can pay $2 and watch it on Amazon, or find it on YouTube. And if you find it on YouTube, I have a channel with like 60 other videos about the $2 bill related content.
Awesome.
And people love the channel. People come there, and I've got some dedicated followers who learn from my videos, and it just educates. And a lot of the people who watch aren't even subscribers. They're people who come across the videos for various reasons and then become subscribers. So yeah, without going into a lot of detail, because we've been on for a while, it's a great film about $2 bills, very educational, entertaining. And even if you're not here in America where you were using that sort of currency, it's enlightening. You'll probably have a story that relates to it in some way.
Hmm. I wonder, if I went here to a local bank, I think they'd probably say, "Oh, this is a fake bill, $2 bill. We've not seen this."
If you do that, please bring a camera with you and film it, and then send me the footage because I'll use
Well,
it.
I'd have to translate it as well. That's the
That's
thing.
all right. I mean, listen, if you film and you're overseas, you
Yeah.
go up with an American $2 bill and spend it. I would love to see what would happen. But that's a great video for my channel. I should send you a couple of $2 bills and send you on a mission to have somebody else go in there with their phone or something, hidden, and
Yeah, yeah,
film
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And I would love to see what happens. I should do that in several different countries and say, watch what happened. That'd be the great video for the channel. Watch what happens when US $2 bills are
There we
spent in other
go.
countries.
We
Yeah,
have
but
two.
I don't.
We have two ideas. The movie
That's right.
that
That's
you
right.
can
I'm
have.
turning my old film into a weekly series. I'm going to think about that.
Yeah, and the I think the $2 thing is even more doable. You just need probably some either volunteers or pay somebody to $2 to $10, whatever, to
Well, I'd say I'd send them a couple of twos and then say just keep them
keep
after
the
you
rest.
film what you film. Yeah, keep them right. Just keep them because they'll probably love it because you can't get them. I mean, I get people on the YouTube channel writing me saying, "Can you send me a $2 bill?" I'm like, "Well, no, I can't just send everybody who asks $2 bill. I mean, what do you think? It's money. It's
It's money,
it's
right, right, right.
sending. It's like saying, send me money. How about you send me money? How's that? Send me $10 and I'll send you $2 bills. There you go.
Right,
That's
right,
how I'll
right.
work. Yeah.
Okay, before we end, is there anything we didn't? Well, actually, let's go there because everybody asked you that about the Wheel of Fortune stuff.
Yeah. All right. So I was on in 2002. I was a contestant on the Wheel of Fortune, and I
Mm,
won. I got to the bonus game, and then I lost. But I left with about $13,000. Had a great time. Did very well. I was always good at the show. I mentioned I'm a writer and whatnot, so I'm good with words. I know letters. You give me a couple of letters, I can fill in the blanks. It's an ideal show for me to be on.
yep.
And I finally, I want to say, made that dream come true. That sounds kind of corny, but when I lived in Los Angeles, I made sure that I went on the show because I knew I was good at it, and it was an experience I wanted to have. I love playing games, so it was perfect for me. It was a perfect storm, and so I got an audition and I got on, and then I did really well. And that's the extent of it, but it's really cool. It was, and in fact, that video. Remember, I mentioned I have a YouTube channel with just my name on it, with
Yep.
just a few videos. I actually have the show is on that channel. I
Cool.
condensed it and I did like audio commentary during it. I explained like what I was thinking. So if you find John Bennardo spelled properly on YouTube, there's only a couple. Again, it's a small channel, not like my
Yeah,
$2
I'll
bill
give
one. But
links underneath
yeah, I mean, you can find the
the
actual
channels.
video. Yeah, people can watch my experience. They can watch. I condensed it down to like 13 minutes, so it's only stuff that I did, and then a little box in the corner with me talking about it, like explaining what I was doing, why I bought a vowel here. So it's really cool. It's called How I Won $12,850 on Wheel of Fortune. If somebody wants to find it without the link. But yeah, so you can watch it. It was a great time, great experience.
Cool. Anything you want to add before we close this podcast?
No, it's interesting because I don't know how many of your listeners will be interested in the book. If they want to read about American culture and cancel culture,
Sure.
and even though the word fag won't offend them like it would here, it's a great watch. And the movie might be just as good. Looking for a good book, you want to laugh, that's my book. If you're looking for an educational story about a little known piece of currency here in the States, it's a $2 bill movie. And I just appreciate people listening this far. And if they go off and do one of those two things, watch the movie or read the book, I'm grateful. Because you can't expect anybody to do anything for you. All I can do is create the content. So when I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
appreciate whatever audience comes to it and finds it interesting.
I was thinking of that guy that made the new Freddie Mercury movie, that actor.
Uh, well, the guy who played Freddie Mercury he's the new James Bond villain, but that movie keeps getting pushed back because of COVID. But
Really? I think
yeah,
that
what's his
actor
name? I
that
forget.
that actor is pretty good, but he's kind of quirky. Might be good for this role.
He might be, but he's got to also be. He's got to look like a game show host. He's got to have a little bit of a,
Okay, okay.
but not like a slick down. He's not. He's a little bit heavy. He loses weight during the book. I mean, he has bad eating habits,
Hmm.
so he's not like the most suave game show host that would like win on the dating game or anything. But he's not like a slouch either. So that's another reason why it's hard to cast, because the look is probably as important as the mannerisms. But
Okay.
hopefully we find out one day. Hopefully it gets turned into a movie and we
Yes.
find out who gets cast. I'll come back on the show. We can talk about the
All
casting.
right. Awesome. John Bernardo, everybody. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks. Enjoyable conversation. Thanks for having me on.
And thank you everybody for listening or watching.